Scottish Football Social Club is brought to you by McBookie.com. Take a lookie at McBookie today.
Good evening. It is Monday night. It's the Scottish Football Social Club on Premier Sports in association with McBookie. Alan and Michael are here. Michael, only just again. Is there a little bit of sweat there across the brow? What is happening?
He looks angry.
Not even going to
I hope it's family matters, okay? And I hope it's been sorted. But he's here. He is here. Delighted to tell you. And by the way, Alan, just noted today that episode 27 we're on now. We're into March. That's the longest anyone's ever put up with Michael for one season. So congratulations.
Do you know what? I'm getting used to it. I'm getting used to it. Do you know what I mean? He's trying to wind me up when we're at games and stuff, shouting at me through the car, pretending he's a fan, and do you know what I mean? So, but I'm used to it now. So it's like water off a duck's back. No problem.
Did you roll the window down to sign an autograph, and was it his face?
No. I was walking back to my car, just peaceful, just as you do. And then I just heard. I'm not going to tell you exactly what was being shouted from the window, but there was a lot of swearing involved, as if he was an Aberdeen fan. But I just continued just by myself to walk there. And I knew it was his voice. He was just trying to cover up. But I did. I kept myself to myself, got in the car and left. And then he phoned me and I was halfway down the motorway, said, "That was us." So I was like, "I knew it was you, you dumpling." He's like, "If that was an Aberdeen fan, you wouldn't have said anything." I was like, "I knew it was you."
Correct.
Exactly.
There was a few corrections there. One, he didn't know it was me. And two,
I did.
And two, there isn't a motorway. It's an A road.
Well, whatever it is.
Oh, come
infrastructure is. But up to the third city in the country, and we don't even have a motorway.
Oh, here we go again.
I'm just happy he's back in Scotland, Al, to be honest, because he was insufferable. Did you see the holiday pictures, the videos? I mean, there was a few guys at Premier Sports noted they've not been in holidays for years, and all they saw was Michael's all last week.
I know. Frightening.
That's just the way it goes. Anyway, right, Michael, should we get into the football? Should we get into some of the big games that happened over the weekend? And listen, one of the biggest of all was played on Saturday, and that was Dundee against St Johnstone. All square in the end. St Johnstone are in there with a fight, aren't they? Dundee, you felt really needed to register 3 points in this one, Michael, just to change their own fortunes. But in the end, a point apiece. You've had a good look at this game. Was it a fair outcome?
Probably. I mean, look, the big thing I know what you're saying in terms of Dundee needing 3 points to try and just put an end to what has been a horrific run for them. But I think it ended up just being a game that they had to make sure they didn't lose, because they were on they were staring at another defeat, and St Johnstone quite incredibly closing in right on them. And it's a great goal. Mackenzie Kirk, brilliant header to loop it over the goalkeeper. And then Simon Murray with what he does, he's just, he never stops. He's a total nuisance all the time. So I think in the end, Tony Docherty will probably take the point and just hope that they can try to build upon that and make sure that they don't get dragged into the automatic relegation, which was unthinkable previously.
Yeah, totally. Now, it's not just my computer, is it? Are those highlights bounced around for you as well,
yes.
guys?
Yes.
I don't know. Jamie, the producer behind the scenes. Jamie, if it's like that, no problem. If we can roll it again clean, we'll do it. If not, no worries at all. Let's just hope the rest of the highlights are better than that. But anyway, I mean, they were pushing towards the end of the game, Dundee, to get the winner. That was Tiffany off the post that you could just about see there, Alan. And I kind of said that they needed the 3 points because it would have put a bit of a gap between the two teams. And also, as Michael's rightly said, it would have changed the narrative.
Yeah, I think so. Me and Michael were actually talking about it the other day, and it kind of goes back to like the Hearts game. And then you've got the Celtic one where they concede 6 and then 6 again. And it's been difficult for them to kind of turn it around from there. But I think it was important that they didn't lose more than anything. So they got a point out of it. They'll look to build on it. But I just think St Johnstone are I know we've said for weeks now that they're probably going to go down, but they're just quietly going about their business, picking up points. And it's just getting tighter. It's 3 points now. So I fear for Dundee, especially the amount of goals that they're conceding when you look at it. I mean, it's a barrel load. So it's going to be difficult. But I think they still have the quality to push themselves up the league.
I mentioned Joe Shaughnessy last week. Michael obviously had a hand in the goal. I mean, he is going to be vital because they've had so many injuries this season, Dundee. He's going to be so important as these few weeks go forward?
Absolutely, no question about it. I think Tony Docherty was talking and mentioning just that fact after the game, referencing that he feels better now that he's got Shaughnessy back in the team, but he's going to have to get up to speed pretty quickly because it's been a dire run, and the confidence has clearly been obliterated at the worst time possible. And coupled with the fact that St Johnstone have had an uptick in performances, yes, they have, because defensively they've not been as kamikaze. But more importantly for them, results. They've started to pick up results. So this is now a genuine relegation fight, when I did not see it, even just a couple of weeks ago, did not see this happening at all.
On St Johnstone, they've got some good attacking players, Alan. I wonder if that's enough to pull some teams back into this fight, not just Dundee, maybe Kilmarnock, we'll come on to in a second, but guys like Mackenzie Kirk, who's made a massive impact this season.
He has, and I think if you play to his strengths, he's shown everybody that he's going to score goals. If you get balls into the box, he's very good in the air. I think he's good with his feet as well. So, look, I think Michael's right. If they stop the defending, it was kamikaze at times. If they can shore up the back line, which it looks like they might be capable of doing, and get the likes of Sidibe, these guys, in forward areas where they can go and hurt teams, they will be able to score goals because they like to play football. You see, like the possession stats and stuff, they are decent with the ball. It's just, can they turn that into goals?
It's Scottish Cup as well next weekend, Michael. It's actually a week on Monday, or a week tonight, I should say, for St Johnstone before they play again. Livingston away in the Cup. What an opportunity to make it through to a semi-final. And you just wonder, sometimes I know people talk about distractions. I'm never sure about distractions of a cup competition. But what it can give you is potentially a bit of momentum again, something to kick forwards. And, getting to a major semi-final can certainly bring that to a club. We've seen it with St Johnstone in the past.
Yeah. Look, I don't think, the way St Johnstone are at the moment, I don't see how this can be viewed as anything other than positive.
Yeah.
I don't see it as a distraction at all. A great opportunity to get themselves in a semi-final, and that allows them to build momentum and belief that things are going in the right direction. And I suppose the flip side is, if they get knocked out, they can, as disappointing as it will be, they can then focus purely on the league. So to a certain extent, it feels like it's a bit of a free hit for them.
Yeah.
As much as it would be disappointing, obviously, to go out of the cup against a lower league opposition, but realistically, there isn't a great deal between the two sides.
Well, you've seen Livingston. You've seen them a lot this season. So who do you kind of make favourites going into the game?
Don't be on the fence. Don't be on the fence, Michael.
Defensively, obviously, Livingston are pretty atrocious with Ryan McGowan at centre half.
Oh, come on.
Come on. I'm just trying to be straight here. From his perspective, obviously I'm taking the mickey, it's up against his former team. So he's going to have a fair bit of, I would imagine, hunger and desire to get Livy through to the semi-final at the expense of St Johnstone. I think that St Johnstone could, and all season could have, certainly done with the likes of himself and Liam Gordon. I don't think it was wise to let the two of them go in the summer, and obviously coupled with the fact that Andrew Constantine was retiring. Granted, you needed to strengthen because the three of them were coming towards the end of their career, but I don't think it was wise to let all three of them leave at that same window. So to go back to the point, who do I think will win? I think Livy might just sneak it at home.
Wow.
I was counting the time there. I didn't think we were ever going to get an answer. We got an answer. And by the way, I would say we'll invite Ryan McGowan on next week, at least to defend himself, but obviously not going to do that because he'll be played. He'll be played. Maybe in 2 weeks he'll come on. Or two. Is that an international break? I don't even know anymore. But we'll get Ryan McGowan on at some point. Maybe off the back of a Hearts victory, because then he'll be really pleased. We'll get him on one of those weeks. And he's a good guy, by the way, Ryan McGowan. Right. Obviously some concerns for Dundee fans and St Johnstone fans. They've been concerned for a while now. They've got a bit of enthusiasm and optimism. A team that you know very well, Kilmarnock, Alan, we've spoken about it a few times. And every time you think there's going to be an upturn in form, another defeat, maybe 2 or 3 in the spin, it's not been a great week for them. How worried are you at the moment after they lost up in Dingwall?
Yeah, I'd say worried. I think they can possibly get dragged in. They're sitting, 6 points off the top 6, but I think that's just a little bit too far. with how inconsistent they are. I mean, if they could bring the form of that first half against Rangers all the time, I mean, we'd be talking about a top 6 team, no doubt about it. But the problem is they can't. And look, they create opportunities. I don't think they're clinical. They sometimes give away sloppy goals. And well, I think they did towards the end throw everything at Ross County, but look, it wasn't enough. Ross County got a really well-worked goal within the game, and they tried to dig in. But I just feel for me, watching them, they are capable of good performances. They just don't show it on a consistent basis. And I think that's the biggest problem.
No, and by the way, Jamie's he has messaged me, Michael. Okay, he said hands up, nothing to do with me. First of all, okay.
So it's his internet for once. It's his internet for once.
No, well, apparently it is the technology tonight.
All right, okay.
With the technology tonight, the actual software. So at the moment, highlights are not working. Listen, we'll maybe give it one more go later on in the programme.
Similar problems in Edinburgh earlier on as well.
Oh, was that your excuse for coming on just before?
But that's normal, Darryl. We should know this by now.
I mean, has Scott Brown not been round to the house yet? Has he not sorted this out?
Funny you mentioned that. I was just talking about that earlier the day with somebody that Scott and I know. And he brought up the fact that Bruni owns a broadband company. I went, aye, I know. And he's still never been to sort it out.
How fitting it was that you just broke up as you were saying that. But we heard you, Michael. We did hear you.
I mean, you can go all the way to Austria or wherever he was and get good internet signal, but not in Edinburgh. But aye, right. There you go.
I'll just go back to Killie. You know, when you look at them, they've got some really good attacking talent. Some players that we have mentioned this season. And I know they've had injuries as well. Another team who've had especially defensive injuries, and they've lost some key players as the season's gone on. But it always feels to me when I look at even the subs that Derek McInnes could make at the weekend, that they should have enough, especially in that attacking third. But it's another game they've not scored in.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're spot on. I think when you look at the team and the players that they've got, the likes of Bobby Wales, Watkins, these kind of guys that have been regulars. I know Vassell's been a miss, but I think Bobby Wales has come in and done really well since he's been out. Finley's been a huge miss, I think, at the back for them as well. But, I mean, Kennedy coming back now, Armstrong, there's a lot of attacking threat. Murray, like, there's lots of people within there that I feel that should have enough. And Derek McInnes spoke at the start of the season that they'll make up for it. The European campaign took a lot out of them at the start of the season, but it's just been really inconsistent for him. And he must be pulling his hair out when he does watch games, because I go back to that Rangers game, that first half. They should have been a 4-0 up at half-time. And the game should have been done and dusted, over, but they just couldn't put it to bed, and Rangers come back. And I think it's just happened too many times this season where they have maybe conceded late goals or sloppy goals or whatever, and just maybe not being able to put the ball in the back of the net. So look, they're going to have to turn it around quickly if they want to kind of climb up, because if not, you know the way the teams are below them, they're going to be looking over their shoulder.
Well, it really looks now. I mean, the games are running out, Michael. It really looks now like the top 6 is going to be too big an ask. You would imagine. I know there's still a bit of time left. You'd imagine now, though, it's the Killie fans who are actually concerned. And I've seen some tweets this week, or whatever you call them on X now. I've seen some messages from some of their fans saying just that they are now really worried that this could go pear-shaped very quickly. And I'm not sure I see it as that much of a concern, but they seem to have that.
Well, I mean, all you need to do is look at Dundee. You know, that was a couple of weeks ago. You would have thought it was inconceivable that they would have found themselves in the position that they're in. So I can completely understand the Killie, mentality, because as Alan just mentioned before, all season long, it's been just inconsistent. And whenever you think they're about to have an uptick or there's a good performance, the next week it might be the performance is okay, but the result's no great. And, I think that's what happened in Dingwall. Overall, they should have got at least a draw out of that game, but they didn't. And it's another defeat, and they're sitting in the bottom 6. And I do think that they're too far off the top 6 with only, 4 games left to play, to be able to get into that top 6. And here's the real kicker, that I think for a number of clubs, it's almost like if they're able to get the top 6, they could have aspirations of Europe. They don't make the top 6, and it's genuinely, we could get dragged into a relegation battle. And that's for like about 3 or 4 clubs.
Yeah, it's that tight. And Ross County, other side of it, they'll be looking up now, Alan. And why not? Because throwing bodies on the line in that game, they had a goal disallowed that I thought was harsh too. You know, I've had my VAR dance all season. Really harsh, mate. Really. And they've got a goalkeeper, by the way, in Amisa. I know we've also praised Amisa since he's come into the team on this show already. But just in the last couple of games, he's made some big stops. Even the game midweek that they lost, he kept them in the match.
Yeah, we've mentioned him a few times on the show. I think he's really stood up to be counted and made some big saves. And I think as a defensive unit as well, they tend to throw their body on the line. They try and get in front of stuff. They showed that against Kilmarnock, but not only that, they show it week in, week out. And they then just have that little bit of quality at times to go and score a goal. I mean, it's been a strange season even for them because their home form has been excellent. And then it kind of flipped, and then it was their away form that was really bad, and then that was the good part for them. So, look, if they can just be, again, consistent at home, of course they're looking up. They're just on the edge of that top 6 place as they sit at this moment in time. So, if they can get another... And people don't like going up there, by the way. It's difficult, the travel, the pitch. I mean, it's not easy. So, people won't really want to go up there. So, if they can use that to their advantage, you can see them climbing even higher.
Michael, you love going up there. You get a night out away from the family.
No, that's too north for me.
Take the family, Darryl.
A break. It's a wee night out. Come on.
Take the family.
The family must be around him right now because he'd obviously be in big trouble if he said anything else.
Oh, I know.
Right, onwards to a few more of the Saturday matches. Alan, I hate to do it to you.
No, let's leave it again.
Moment, but not before we talk Motherwell, because Michael Wimmer, you can start to see the makings of the kind of team that he wanted in the previous match that they won. But to go and win at Ibrox as well, to go back to back, another team now who could just look up the table. And why not? All of a sudden it flips. Why not thinking top 6? But they looked good at Ibrox, didn't they?
Absolutely, they did. I mean, all credit to them. Rangers were terrible, but I think you have to look at Motherwell and what they tried to do. That was a team where you could see what they were trying to do. It wasn't just about, let's get the ball forward, let's go and defensively test them or whatever. They tried to play football. I mean, Slattery and Sparrow out on the right-hand side caused all sorts of problems for Rangers. Rangers defensively looked really nervous for me. I mean, that's 3 home games, 3 losses. The Kilmarnock game, I mean, they were all over the place. And I just feel even, like, what's their identity going forward? Like, what are they trying to do? I think there's too many players within that team that the game just passes them by. They're not doing enough. And I just feel you shouldn't have to go 2-0 down before you get a reaction. Fair play to the players at Kilmarnock, because they obviously, Barry Ferguson read the right act and he got a response to them. They showed character and desire and everything that you're looking for as a manager. But you shouldn't have to go 2 goals down at any game to get that reaction. And I still don't think they got it after half-time. He made substitutions. But I think from Motherwell's point of view, you have to look at what Michael Wimmer's done since he's come in, and you could see there was a plan there. What they were trying to do, it was pass through the lines, make things happen, overloads, and it worked for them. And they thoroughly deserved their victory.
They did. We're giving up in that, Michael. We're giving up in the highlights tonight. That was when you saw that picture of Jack Butland there and nothing moved. That was the end of it. We've agreed.
I'm sure Jack Butland would have preferred it just to have frozen there as well.
I was happy as well, just to see it freeze.
It was a shocking mistake. But just on the Steelmen briefly, Michael, there was so many good performers. Dominic Thompson, I thought, played an absolutely brilliant game against Cherney as well. Barely gave him a kick.
But this is the thing, collectively, you could see Michael Wimmer, the game plan was executed perfectly. And Rangers didn't have... So, I mean, first of all, talking about Motherwell, right? You had Lennon Miller and Slattery either side of Ragnar, the big Viking centre forward. Armstrong. And at times, Armstrong ended up being deeper than them out of possession and just sitting on one of the deepest midfielders. And Slattery on the right and Lennon Miller on the left, whatever side the ball was on, they just went up on top of the centre half. And then, like you were saying, Thompson, he would get right up on top of Yilmaz as soon as the ball was shifting. If it went over at the other side to Proper, Slattery was up on top of him, and then Sparrow was up on top of Jefte. And the midfield just locked in behind them, and Armstrong made sure he was on whichever centre midfielder was over there. And that shut Rangers down. They had no passing angles and passing lines, and it forced them into turnovers, cheap turnovers, which Motherwell were really good on the turnover and countering them. Yeah. And it forced them into playing longer balls. And then they were just lapping that up defensively, Casey and Gordon and such like. So I thought Motherwell were very good all round, out of possession and in possession. The bigger question for Rangers is, where are the guys that in the game themselves that recognising, right, I need to go and make something happen. We need to do something a little bit different. We need to pull into different areas to get on the ball. It just disintegrates so easily for Rangers because everything that Alan just said, and we've been saying it all season long, they lack characters who have actual intensity. And I know I keep bringing up Bayrami, but he's a perfect embodiment of that. A guy who you can see is technically quite a nice player, but has zero intensity in his game.
I was actually surprised, Michael, that he got 45 minutes. And I'm not sure what you made of the changes, both of you, but at half-time, obviously, Lawrence, Bayrami, Balogun came on. So proper, it's another central defender who's been dragged off one of the last two performances.
I just wondered with
But
Proper...
was desperate to get off, I know, though.
I just wondered with Proper whether it was the head knock that
Maybe
he'd come off with, or whether he was just quite happy to come off, because Balogun coming on was a sense, but it just made me think, surely Yilmaz, I mean, look, first of all, from Barry Ferguson's perspective, you look at the back four, it's far from ideal. You know, like Yilmaz right back, Tavernier's playing centre half, Proper doesn't have the intensity that you'd look for from a centre half, and Jefte, as much as we've seen this season, you know, he can attack, he can't defend.
The second goal, like,
it's quite
honestly,
dreadful.
Schoolboy stuff. But it's the worry for me moving forward, because you think next it's the two Fenerbahce games, then Celtic. We know all the league's done and everything, but that's on your own.
No, it's just interesting point coming in there, because Alan, that's something you were talking to me about just before we went live tonight, about what back four do you play, particularly during the week. Yilmaz at right
Sterling
back,
has to play.
centre back, Proper in there as well. Look, Balogun obviously
has to play.
Weekend. Balogun's got to play, but I think the bigger question now is, where does Tavernier play? Made his 500th appearance at the weekend. Do you play him at centre half? Do you play Sterling at right back? Do you move Yilmaz to left back? You're going away to Istanbul to play Fenerbahce, who you know have got some seriously good attacking players.
Yeah, look, I think Yilmaz has to play at left back.
defenders.
Yeah, I think Yilmaz has to play left back, because I don't think Jefte can. Look, we've said it enough times, and I know he's only young and he will learn, but defensively gets left wanting far too many times in big moments within games. So I think that would be a huge risk if he was to play. So I'd play Yilmaz there. If Balogun's fit, I think he has to play. I know Suter was back in training, but I'm not sure if he would be ready or not. If he is, he plays.
Yeah, I agreed. I know you wonder about they keeping him back because he didn't make the bench at the weekend. So
Exactly, but
he wasn't 100% even good enough to make the bench, fit enough to make the bench.
Yeah.
Then you'd wonder if they'd throw him straight back in. And I guess Sterling, who got some game time, obviously looked a little bit rusty.
The only thing with him, Darryl, is
a performer.
Yeah, he is. He totally is. But you can't switch it on like a light. He's been out for a number of weeks, or I don't know exactly how long he's been out for. But I think to throw him into a situation away at Fenerbahce would be a huge ask.
But would you trust him to defend more?
Yeah, of course. If he was totally fit.
The other ones you've mentioned.
If he was 100% fit and had been training and all the rest of it, then yeah.
I mean, at 60, 70% potentially.
I just think it's a big ask, Darryl. I'm just trying to think from my situation. If I was out that length of time and been thrown into that game, would I try? Absolutely. I think you've probably got a better chance of playing centre half at that kind of percentage fit and dealing with it. But I think
you can't say fullback's more difficult.
There's more running, obviously. You're up and down, aren't you? Or are you not? Or do you do more running at centre back? You tell me.
Depends what kind of right back you are, Alan.
I'm a rodding one.
You're one that scored from inside your own half.
But no, I just genuinely look at it right now. If that back four was to play in the next 3 games, I'd be worried. And look,
by the way, Hutz, you know that Barry Ferguson's thinking the exact same thing. But this is a monumental team selection he's got. Yeah. Because everything that we've just been speaking about there, you know he's thinking the exact same things. And let's be honest here, any potential managerial career that Barry Ferguson's wanting pretty much hinges on what's happening over this next few months. And this game, there is no bigger game than this one.
This is the season for Rangers now, Michael.
Yes. It's the season, and these decisions that we're talking about, and you're going, I don't, like we're sitting here, we've got no responsibility, but it's still a tough decision to make. Barry Ferguson has got monumental decisions to make with this defence in particular. And if he gets it, but he needs a bit of luck as well here, because if he picks some of these guys who aren't 100% fit, he needs a bit of luck for them to get through the game. And if
worth the risk, though, do you think?
Again, we've not got the responsibility and the pressure of it. I would tend to probably go with that. But my fear for Barry Ferguson would be, if he does that, you just imagine one or two of them go down injured inside the first half an hour. All of a sudden, people are going to be saying, why did you do that?
But Michael, equally, if they concede a couple of early goals again, this tie could run away from them. So you have to stay in the tie.
Yeah, absolutely. These are all the things you've got to weigh up. That's why, for me, I would be going with the better players, the better defenders, and run the risk that they might break down, but I'd rather have them on the park to begin with.
Hopefully, the bus breaks down in front of the goal. That'd be better. That might help.
I tell you what, it looks like a really difficult tie now, Alan, and that's even bearing in mind how well Rangers have played in Europe so far this season. Some players do seem to turn up, and that's obviously not a particularly good thing, that players are almost picking and choosing which games they really want to perform in. Look, Egeman's one I wanted to mention because so much praise has been heaped upon him. Barry Ferguson sort of taken him off the last couple of matches, off at half-time at the weekend. It looks as if he's struggling to find top form. Maybe this is the kind of match that can bring the best out of him. Hadji as well, and we've mentioned Bayrami, but they all looked off it at the weekend.
Yeah, I think when you talk about the likes of Egeman, you need to remember he's still young, and I think when you are young, you have inconsistent games. I think that's a big part of it, and he was really thrown in under Clement. He wasn't not rated. That's not the right word. He just wasn't in the squad as much as he was towards the end because he was really needed. So I think there's going to be that inconsistency with him. He can show you what he's capable of, but he's had a drop off in recent weeks. And look, he plays with a freedom and he moves about the pitch. And maybe Barry Ferguson's looking at that and thinking, look, that's not what I need at this moment in time. I need somebody to play central, like Dessers, get the ball to him, play off him, whatever. But for me, the bigger thing is it's more of a mentality thing when I look at the team, because if you can get yourself up for the Celtic game, the big European ties under the lights, these kind of games, but you struggle to go to St Mirren and all the I don't want to say lesser teams, but teams that you possibly should be beating, and you can't turn up and have the same drive and desire in their games, that's a big problem. Yeah. So yes, they have kept their bigger performances for European games. Let's hope that team turns up. But it's a huge ask to go over there with the atmosphere that they're going to encounter. And
have you ever played out there?
I haven't, unfortunately. I would have loved to. I mean, I went out and seen Griggs when he was at Besiktas, but they were wild. I mean, the fact you're walking down the street and the fans were absolutely wild. So I can only imagine what it's like at the likes of Fenerbahce. But they'll be used to playing in these kind of atmospheres. Yeah. But they need to turn up. Every single person needs to play at the highest that they possibly can.
Michael, you were out in Turkey. What was it like?
That was nice. An extended holiday. Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Well, I'm being serious because I got injured the week of the first game of the season, and I never played a proper game. Never played one single.
The weather must have been nice though. That must have been a plus.
It was absolutely ridiculously hot. Yeah, and the manager of the team at the time was Thomas Doll, who was the former Borussia Dortmund manager and German international, and he was a fitness freak. He had you running in 35, 40 degree heat and just pounding non-stop.
Obviously, you didn't do your prep ahead of time about Thomas Doll, did you? Because you went out there expecting an easy few months. Disaster.
No, an easy few months. Well, that's what ended up coming in. Well, it certainly wasn't easy, but
anyway, you know how fanatical they are, though, and you know what kind of experience that Rangers and their fans are going to have.
Yes, I'm sort of taking the mickey slightly, but of course, even just being there, like Alan's talking about, you travel around even before the season, and you understand how fanatical the supporters are. It's it's quite incredible. It is genuinely life or death for a lot of these folk. It's mental. And Fenerbahce are obviously one of the biggest teams in the country as well, and they've got
a team Mourinho to start it up.
Yeah, Mourinho.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Yeah, and they've got a team full of talent. So it's not going to be easy for Rangers. That's for certain.
And you've already made the point, Michael, that it's obviously a really big match for Barry Ferguson and Alan. I think that is must be in Barry's mind, because look, there was people saying, "Oh, if he does really well the next few months, he might get the job. You never know." That was always going to be a long shot. But the next person that comes in, the next manager that comes in, may want to have a Scottish coach next to him. So Barry Ferguson, the rest of those coaches, in many ways, you might be sort of managing or coaching for your own future as well. There's every chance if it does go well over the next few months that one of them, maybe Barry himself, would be kept on. Maybe a couple of them.
Well, look, I know Barry well enough to sit here and say that I'm sure he wants it. Yeah. Just the way he is, his personality, everything that goes along with him. He's Rangers through and through. So I know for a fact he would have went in there trusting in himself to go and be able to do the job, believing in himself that he could go and do it, and hoping that he went on a winning run. I mean, these are huge games. Of course, the Celtic one's a huge game, but if he could get through this, or even if they were to get knocked out but play really well and they were just a little bit unfortunate, I think his stock rises. And then going towards the end of the season, if they have a good end, then his name would be there for, if the takeover happens or whatever, for whoever's going to make the decisions, that his name is going to be linked with the job. Look, do I see him being as a number 2? Of course, I think he would take it, but I think it would be difficult for him. But it's one of those we have to wait and see. But I'm sure to start with, going in there, he would have had an eye on the future and wanting to take it. But you have to get the results.
And more positive news, by the way, on the takeover possibility today. It's looking like more than a strong possibility now. So we'll see in the next few weeks if that finally goes through. Michael, on to the late kickoff on Saturday. Celtic in the end, comfortable in terms of the scoreline. But St Mirren, a team who often seem to put up a really good fight in matches like this, did exactly that. And look, we'll get to VAR. We'll get to the penalty that wasn't given. Obviously, we're not going to see the highlights, but there was so much in the game to talk about. So much good football played as well, Michael.
Yeah, and Brendan Rodgers was saying after the game, it was probably one of his, how did he phrase it? Basically, one of his happiest results. Just in regards to going to Paisley, the park that's not particularly great, coming up against St Mirren, who are extremely difficult to compete against, and they ran Celtic close for a big chunk of that, and then. Touching on, look, in the end it turns into a comfortable scoreline, but it was far from comfortable for a good stretch of that game. And, at 3-2, the penalty or the non-penalty kick is clearly a huge talking point. Celtic after that, it's a penalty kick. It's a penalty kick.
I thought you were going to skip over it there and just move on.
Listen, before, can I go on another VAR rant? Because I've had a few, right? What we've not actually mentioned so far, and I will get to it, the Dundee United goal, Sam Dalby goal that was disallowed last midweek, absolutely disgraceful. What did I say about guessing and not necessarily having enough good officials to run VAR in this country, or have enough good angles on some of the matches where there's just not enough cameras? That is unfortunately Scottish football. But this one, again, I don't understand it. Play went on so quickly, Michael. If VAR have actually properly checked this, how on earth do you not think in modern day football it's a penalty? The same as bad as the Celtic decision was last week and the Dundee United goal, we could go on and on. It's getting worse.
Yeah, I've got to agree. It is getting worse. After a good start to the season, there was a dip. I was giving them, not the benefit of the doubt, but
I thought you were being paid by them, to be fair. You were sticking up for them that much.
I was waiting to see what it was like over a longer period of time. It's not got better, it's got worse. And certainly the last month, you talk about coming to a crescendo at the end of the season. It certainly is for the VAR, and not in a good sense. That was a penalty kick. I don't think anybody realistically, objectively looking at that could say anything other than a penalty kick. Because I'm not even. I've watched it a number of times. I'm not sure whether Alistair Johnston touches the ball or not, but it's immaterial whether he touches.
Even if he does get a slight touch, it's high. The force is there.
Yeah,
I think it's a penalty.
I just don't
understand. If that's outside the box,
football, you just cannot challenge like that,
guys. If that's outside in the middle of the pitch, it's a foul. No, on you go. I'm just saying, if that's anywhere else on the pitch, it would be given a foul.
And if it's in the penalty box, 99 times out of 100 it's given. I just don't understand how VAR could look at it and not think that it should be, looked at by the referee and a penalty given, because there is no words to describe There's no mitigation for me. It's a penalty kick, plain and simple.
I'm just waiting for a wee comment to pop up saying it's a contact sport or something.
I believe there's
I'm
been loads of
surprised that's
comments
not
that
happened
we
yet.
can't show, by the way. There's been a lot of comments that we cannot pop up, I promise you. But look, obviously St Mirren fans are very disappointed. It was Celtic fans and Dundee United fans. And I mean, you can go back and that. I mean, you've not Stephen Robinson, obviously, you know what he said recently about VAR and Dundee United as well. You're not attending a meeting. I mean, Michael, where does it stop? There's a vote in Norway apparently tonight. I know you're a big fan of Norway, Michael, the way they run their country. A vote in Norwegian football, I think it was today or tonight, on whether or not they should just scrap VAR now. I think they're going to continue with it for now, but a lot of clubs wanted to get rid of it. And I just wonder, are we going to get to that point soon?
Well, I mean, look, there's an industry that revolves around it, so people are making money. So there's going to be a fair bit of lobbying and pushback against it, but ultimately it's the clubs that would decide, and they're the ones that are fronting the money up. Yeah, they're the ones that are fronting the money up. So,
but is this not like more of a light version?
Yeah, well, it is because of the lack of camera angles, Alan.
That's the big thing for me, right? Because I know it costs a lot of money. It doesn't come cheap. I totally understand that. But I get to the point now where with some of the decisions that we're seeing, you either go all in or you go all out, as in terms of the VAR situation, because some of the decisions recently, I even go back to like the Celtic one, the one you couldn't definitively see that it was over the line.
No.
Like, so like, even though we're talking about this Alistair Johnson tackle, like, it's not just that one instant. Like, there's other ones along the way that we're also talking about. I know people will get angry and upset about this one, but I mean, there's been more.
Yeah.
So I just feel like you can't be like 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
There's been quite a few in the last month or so, even the last couple of weeks, where this one obviously doesn't go against what the referee's done, but there's been quite a few. The Dalby one that you just touched on as well, Darryl. And you do know, by the way, that they couldn't draw lines.
I know.
Because they couldn't definitively get the last defender. They were being blocked. And you're like, what? So they couldn't determine whether it was onside or offside. So the goal was given in normal play, and then they've, don't know how, but guessed and decided that it hit off his arm. No
and just
idea.
with a freeze frame. Did you see the freeze? And it was like, oh, it's hit his... No, you can't actually see. You can't actually tell if it did or it didn't.
It's the same as the Celtic goal, as we've said, against Hibs.
Yeah,
it was disallowed. You cannot tell. So if we're going to do VAR in Scotland, if we're going to keep going with VAR, there has to... I know people talk about raising the bar of when they can get involved and make decisions. Only get involved if it's crystal clear. And maybe penalty box decisions. I don't know if they have to refine it or whatever it is, Michael.
But Darryl,
it's way out of hand at the moment.
This was why it was good at the start of the season, because the interventions, the bar was raised. So if you think about the Sam Dalby one, for instance, just look at that. No need to get involved. No need to get involved. You know, you look at the lines, you can't definitively see the lines. It's a goal. You know, stop trying to find things. You know, it's the microscope comes out and you start guessing and you start freeze framing it. You look at like, you look at it constantly. Roll, reverse, rewind. You know, stop it. Just get on with the game. And the only person that comes away, well, not the only person, obviously, Brendan Rodgers was extremely happy with that. But as he also explained, I think Mr. Yang's quite happy at the moment as well. And no doubt he got home and his girlfriend was happy too.
Hey. It's
been
apparently.
It's been from before the Bayern Munich game, so maybe his family's been over for a while now. So fair play.
I didn't know it was his family. I just thought it was his girlfriend.
Well, I just wasn't going into specifics.
Girlfriend. Listen, whatever's working for him, it's working. Yang's development this season now, the way that Brendan Rodgers has used him
this season or the last couple of months.
What's that, Michael?
His development this season or just the last couple of months?
Last couple of months, he's been outstanding. He's been upstanding. You have to say, Aldo, the way Brendan Rodgers used him and has developed him, as he's done with many players, has been excellent. And another player that we have mentioned, you said actually the night he signed, Jeffrey Schlupp, would be a good signing for Celtic, adaptability as well. But he's a player they have to try to keep surely as well now.
I think so. I mean, we're not sure what's going to happen with Taylor towards the end of the season. Will he leave? Will he stay? It maybe looks like he will be moving to pastures new. But I think if Tierney does come in, which again it looks like he will, to have somebody like well, there you go. So to have Jeffrey Schlupp there as well to compete for that position, I think is very, very strong. I mean, he's shown in a short number of weeks the experience, the power, the strength, obviously, that he has, the energy, the pace to get forward, and the quality.
Yeah.
More than anything. So
saw that against Bayern Munich. He can defend.
Yeah, exactly.
And with all of these European games to come, and Celtic obviously are very much hoping they're going to be right back in the Champions League group stage, group phase next season. With all the games that are being played now, European football, you need a big squad. There's no harm having a player that can play up one, can be that adaptable.
That's the interesting thing about Schlupp, obviously, because he can play up one.
Yeah.
He is very comfortable stepping on the inside where Greg Taylor and the team like to play anyway. So I mean, he's fit. He's fitted into the system straight away, seamlessly. And obviously, I mean, you were mentioning there the Tierney deal is done. I'm pretty sure that I saw Peter Loggle spoke about it in the accounts and saying that they have a deal in place for Tierney to come. So from Jeffrey Schlupp's perspective, oh my word. You're sitting on your backside doing nothing at Crystal Palace, or you're up at Celtic playing in games like against Bayern Munich and potentially winning things and enjoying your football. And come the summer, I would imagine Celtic will put a deal in place to try to sign him. His decision is, what better option are you going to get? You might not be playing every week, but as you see with Celtic, there's so many games. He will play a good chunk of games if he was to sign on.
I'm sure he'll have some options. He'll have other suitors, you would imagine, especially with the form he's shown in the last few weeks.
Yes,
but Celtic at the moment, he's obviously enjoying his football.
Yeah,
they're in the prime position to get.
But what age is he now? Do we have a rough? What age is he?
Was he? I'm guessing here. Was he 33? I can't remember.
So I'm thinking
we did
from
mention
that
it on
point.
The night, didn't we?
From that point of view, like you might have other options, but it might be in the Championship or it might be lower down in the Premier League or whatever. If there's an option to play a team where you're playing in front of 50,000+, playing in the Champions League, possibly winning leagues, cups, I think that's an option you would want to take, especially at that age. For me personally, anyway, that's how I would be thinking as a player.
Yeah.
December 92 is the birthday, so you can work it out, Michael.
32.
32. There you go. 30. Only just 32.
So recently. Plenty of time.
Plenty of time. He's got 2 or 3 good years left in him. Unlike you two, by the way, you were desperate to get out. He's got a few good years left in him. Right, onwards. Michael, Edinburgh Derby. A lot of talking points. Shame we don't have the highlights for this one because there was so much to get into as well. Hearts dominating the first half and actually looked really good in the game. Yeah. And then a good tweak by David Gray at half-time, and maybe Hearts didn't adapt the way they should in the second half. Then the game was very different the second 45 minutes. A really good Edinburgh Derby as well to watch as well, Michael. And we've not always said that in the last couple of years. Some of them have almost felt like, this is going to be a stalemate, and they have ended that way. It shows you the progression of both of the teams because at times this was a really good football match to watch.
It was. It very much was. And Hibs are in pole position to finish third now, which is just quite incredible. And I think they will. I think Hibs are going to finish third.
You've changed last week, didn't you? Have Dundee United now. You're right. Al had Aberdeen. I said Hibs.
And by the way, I don't even think in the last Edinburgh Derby he said Hibs. I still stand by that. We should clip it up. I still stand by it.
Gibberish. Utter gibberish.
Let's clip it up.
Gibberish. Anyway, they're going to finish third. And they were bottom of the table mid-December. 2.5 months ago, they were bottom of the table. Now they're third. And yeah, I mean, look, I watched the second half again today, and the game flipped on Nicky Cadden skinning Taylor into the box and potentially getting a penalty kick. And from that moment on, Hibs just got into their rhythm and they exploited the diamond of the midfield for Hearts. I can understand why Neil Critchley started like that because it's the way they've been playing. They've found a rhythm themselves playing like that. And for the first half, like you said, they were looking good. But the concern is that playing like that, if Hibs get the upper hand, Nicky Cadden, who is the danger man in the team, has too much space. And that was how it proved to be. And I just feel, I know he made changes around about 65, 70 minutes, but I think he needed to be making changes quicker. And this also highlights one of the other problems that Hearts have got. The lack of balance in the team. They've got nobody who could naturally go and play that position as a wide right player, just to shut him off and double up. And the other problem, I think, he should have substituted Gerard Taylor.
He had an absolute shocker,
Yeah.
didn't he?
What, after the first goal or
Well,
second
yeah,
half?
potentially.
Or-
No, I'm just meaning, like, realistically, he's been out for, I mean, forgetting the fact that he didn't have a great game, he'd been out for a long time. He was exposed and didn't have any cover. Forrester's sitting on the bench.
Yeah.
And you needed to, he made the sub to try and get a bit of extra support there, Khartoum. But Khartoum can't run. He's not a white man, as was shown with the second goal when it was pinged out to Cadden and he had about 40 yards of space.
Just put Forrester in front of Taylor.
Well, no. Just
No,
put
worst case
Taylor-
scenario.
Just put Taylor at right back.
I mean,
Sorry,
just
Forrester.
to double up. I mean,
I
just to
think-
like double up.
But
at
put
times.
Forrester-
When Forrester's played anyway, Michael, and he's played in European games this season, I've always thought he's looked pretty secure defensively,
Yeah,
especially
yeah,
for a young
secure.
player who's recently come in the team.
Yes, he's pretty secure. So, I mean, look, the first half went fine, so I can understand why he stuck with things. But as soon as that second half was starting to drift, he needed to make it because it was a circumstance and it was a pattern of play that you would already have been anxious about. You know that that's Hibs' danger. So as soon as that was starting to become prevalent, he needed to flip. He needed to change. And Taylor, he was challenging Jefty for, you know, the worst fullback play of the weekend. I mean,
but they're similar, and those. See what is? I'm glad you brought it up because I feel like they're both young guys going forward. Especially if Hearts are dominating the ball, I think that formation works, and you can get it out wide.
Yeah.
Taylor can get forward and pose himself on the game.
it's all
But
about
see if
being
it's-
on top of the game.
Yeah,
with that
exactly.
guy. If you're on
But
the
then
back
if it's
foot,
not
you're
changed-
screwed.
But I
but
actually thought he looked stripped of confidence anyway. Even in the first half, before the penalty, there was a chance, obviously, for him to go forward a couple of times. A couple of times, it didn't really look as if he wanted to be on the ball after
But
he gave away the
Darryl,
penalty.
he's a
And the
fullback.
moment in the second half where if he just takes a good touch, Hearts
But
are in
Darryl-
behind and obviously knocks the ball inside and Bashiri then batters into him. It just looked short of confidence.
But see, he's a fullback, right? I mean, not always, but if you're getting like dragged back constantly and you've maybe been at fault for a goal or whatever, wrong positioning or whatever, your confidence can quickly go.
Yeah.
And then what happens is your whole mentality changes because you think, wait a minute, I can't go forward because Nicky Cadden's pushing me this way. He was outstanding, by the way.
Excellent
And to play
second
that
half.
formation and give him the room that he had, I mean, he only needs a yard and he can deliver. But to give him the whole side of the pitch to deliver, he's going to rip you apart. And some of his crossing was absolutely brilliant. I think that's where you need to recognise and say, whether it be Taylor or whoever, you must go out and make contact, get tight, don't allow him to cross the ball. And look, I think that formation really affected them, especially in that second half.
I also thought Hearts couldn't afford to lose, by the way, Michael, when you look at
Yeah.
the table. I actually thought they might have needed to win to get third place, especially when you look at the fixtures they've got before the split. Celtic are in there as well. A couple of other really tough games, like Dundee United they've to play. You've actually now got to be concerned all of a sudden from thinking about third place to thinking about the top six full stop.
Well, it comes into what I was talking about before in terms of, you know, make the top six and you can look at challenging for Europe.
Yeah.
Hearts are not going to be in trouble like down the way, but their danger is that they don't, you know, somehow they don't make that top six. They should. I still feel that they should and they will. But just to go back to this, you know, the systems. Again, let me emphasise, I can understand why Neil Critchley went with the diamond because it's how they've been playing. But I would have had in my head, if we are not getting a foothold in this game, and if Nicky Cadden is getting too much space, he has to not just wait 15 minutes and make a change. He has to make a change quickly. And see what is the problem with playing with that system and expecting the fullback to keep going out to the wing back. As soon as Taylor stepped out of that fullback position, the likes of Campbell, Kieran Bowie, and Boyle, they were all making runs on that inside channel between the centre half and the fullback. So every time Taylor, he didn't do it, but I'm saying every time the fullback would step further out, it was a gaping hole for one of them to run in, and they were just playing balls down the line. There was one that Cadden played himself, and Taylor was out of position slightly. He played it right down in behind him because he's got such great, you know, bend on the ball, and they were just exploiting there all the time. So, look, Hibs deserved to win the game on that second half performance. They were thoroughly dominant. They are, I mean, just ludicrously good form, and they are going to be. I just don't. I see them taking third place. It's a really, really interesting battle for third.
Yeah.
I see them doing it. Hearts now. Yes, it was a don't lose game. with a draw, they're still in the hunt. They've lost it. I think third is now going to be a bit too far for them.
Especially with the fixtures they've got to come. But all credit, you're right, Al, has to go to Hibs. You know, we spoke to David Gray. He was on the show just a few weeks ago. The momentum that they have at the moment. Beating Dundee United prior, I know there was an element of luck in the
Celtic the week before.
Celtic the week before. All these fixtures that we were talking about a few weeks ago, saying, look at the run of games they've got. We'll know more about Hibs in a few weeks.
9 points out of 9.
Unbelievable return. And Jack Iredale, the winning goal, Michael.
What a strike.
Like I said, it's just so much positivity. And there's more positive news as well I'll come to in a second. But the momentum is incredible at the football club.
Do you know, the thing for Hibs is their big players are performing every week. That is Triantis in the middle of the park getting better and better. Cadden at left wing back and Martin Boyle up top. The three of them in particular are coming up with
and Kieran Bowie, outstanding.
Bowie, he's been brilliant.
The next thing I was going to say is, then when you add into the mix, you've got Kieran Bowie coming back up top. All of a sudden, you start to go, oh, well, it's not bad. And Iredale has made a difference at the back because he's got a calmness. I still look at that team as a whole and I go, there's still a good few positions. But that, and I've said this a number of times as well, only goes to emphasise what an incredible job David Gray's done, because that squad, I think, can get and needs to be a lot better. Jamie McGrath is a good signing. He's a good signing.
There's been so many questions asked about the 4-year deal. I know you're a big fan of 4-year deals, Michael. So many questions have been asked of that this week.
Well, the 4-year deal, yes, I mean, it's understandable for somebody that's had injuries that Jamie McGrath's had. But I think from the statements that came out from Aberdeen, it was quite clear that the 4-year deal was the what sealed it. Hibs looks like they had to offer 4 years to get him. What it also shows is, regardless of whether you think injuries, no injuries, or debate all you want, Jamie McGrath's a good player. And it shows personally, when I look at that, it shows you that you've got people making transfer decisions that know what they're doing.
Well, the Black Knights have made a big difference, obviously, having their own people coming in.
They're not going and taking punts left, right and centre. Jamie McGrath is a good, sensible addition to the team.
If he stays fit, he's an outstanding player. Look what he did for Aberdeen earlier this season. We need to move on to the last game. We're going to hit an hour here. I can't believe it. We've not even the highlights. But there was also Ian Gordon talking to the shareholders last week. Some news came out off the back of that, Michael. Don't know if you saw it, but he's basically said, the £7.2 million loss would be absorbed. They would effectively pay that off. I think it's a soft loan at the moment. It's going to be converted, though. It's never going to be asked for in return, which means that, financially they're in a good place. And if they can get European football, it's going to get even better. Right, final game, just to get on to, a perfect weekend for Hibs, absolutely perfect, is that Aberdeen and Dundee United then go on and draw, which they did. Alan, you were at the game. Dundee United looked almost home and hosed. So you've got to give some credit to Aberdeen, the way they came back into it.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, as a neutral, I really thoroughly enjoyed it, the game on Premier, so it was really good. But I think from a Dundee United's point of view, I thought they set up perfectly well. They went back to the 4, it was 3-3 more or less, and they kind of frustrated Aberdeen a little bit, because I thought they did start relatively well. But what they've done is, see, when they broke quickly, and Aberdeen for me just looked a little bit open, and that caused them real bother. And they created 2 really good goals. My only thing Jimmy Tillene done what he usually does. He made changes at half-time, tried to change things, get a foothold in the game, and they showed character and stuff. But, I don't know. I just feel when you're in that position, 2-0 up, I know they've been on a poor run of form, but when you factor in they played Celtic twice, Rangers, Hearts, Hibs, now Aberdeen, it's a difficult run of games. I think you need to hold on. And I know he mentioned about 3 games in a week and it's difficult, but when you drop that far back, you just give the incentive to Aberdeen to press on. And I think Shayden Morris was huge coming on. I think the drive that he showed really kind of got them into gear and got them going. But overall, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was a great game.
It was a good watch, especially towards the end, because you just didn't know which way it was going to go, Michael. And Aberdeen, watching on, I did wonder, because I also saw them against Celtic midweek prior, and they looked so open at times. And earlier in the season, they looked dynamic and they looked fit. Against Celtic, they looked leggy at times and slow on the ball. It was like a different Dons you were watching, and I know they've had their hard times. But to come into it, come back into the game, you wonder now, can they kick on from that? Could that give them the belief back, and even the fans around the stadium, that they could maybe go and take third place? Kevin Nisbet's goals, I was listening to your commentary, I did laugh a couple of times, because I mentioned Kevin Nisbet last week as well, and it has been painful to watch him at times, because he looks so far off it.
Stop calling him Rab C. His name's Nisbet, no Nesbet.
Okay,
Man
Nisbet.
like Rab C. Are you saying he was playing like him? Is that what
Well,
you're trying to tell us?
he was looking that way a wee bit, and Michael mentioned it in commentary as well. I was thinking the same thing, but the classy finish to get Aberdeen back into the game, you could just see the confidence coming back into his own match. I mean, he needed it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you talk about could this result reignite Aberdeen's season, and the same can sort of be said, almost Kevin Nisbet being a microcosm of the team as a whole in terms of could the 2 goals reignite his form. Aberdeen need Kevin Nisbet to step up because they have been so toothless. They were toothless in that game as well. They only had 2 strikes on goal and they scored 2 goals. I mean,
they've missed Sockler since he's been out injured, and I know Gay's back now and he's fit again. But even Daba looks naive and raw.
Yeah. So, look, credit to Aberdeen because look, by hook or by crook, they found their way back into it. But they weren't opening Dundee United up. No. It was like they were just a blunt tool trying to bang away at it, and they kept doing the same.
Ben Crossley said 74.
Same thing, and
and then they scored for it.
Well,
that's a brilliant moment, Al. Hit the byline. He's been saying it all season.
74th cross, 75th one, bang, goal.
A wonderful teasing ball to the back post it was.
Well, the thing is, I watched the replay again. I was thinking, do you know why that actually worked?
Oh, wow.
Thinking, what? Well, it was because
just a good ball.
No, it was no different. But you know what the difference was? Kneuster was still up from the set play, and he was able to run across the face of Ross Graham and stop him from heading it. That was the only difference.
And there was a bit more flight on it. I know what you mean. Some of the balls in the box were terrible, by the way.
And Dundee United, as a team, they defend their box. Jim Goodwin said it afterwards. And he said everything that I think everybody watching the game felt as well. They were defending their box fine. It wasn't as if you're thinking, oh, they're under serious pressure. They're going to crack here. Kevin Nisbet's first goal gave Aberdeen something to really chase, and that was a really good goal. They've got the second one, and credit to them. But if they're going to kick on, they need to address some serious problems. That being, they are far too open when they are in the turnover. Sivert Nielsen in the middle of the park, if he's going to play there, he has to be doing something in a defensive sense when they're in possession. Because on the turnovers, he's nowhere. You've got 2 centre-halves and him in front, and they are nowhere. They're far too easy to counter on, and they need to do something about that. And then in attack, they have to find that decisiveness again. Get in behind and penetrate the opposition. They're playing far too much in front of every team. Those 2 things.
Just hit the byline and put a good ball in. All right, Al.
Morris, hit the byline, bang, cut it across.
We're almost out of time. Scottish Cup quarter-finals next weekend. Couple of brilliant games on Premier Sports. Hearts Dundee's the Friday night, isn't it? And then Celtic Hibs. 2 fantastic football matches for you guys to look forward to, Alan.
Oh, really looking forward to it. Friday night, under the lights. Tynecastle will be there. I'm not doing the Celtic one this time, so...
Oh, have you been given a reprieve, have you?
Yeah. Just in case anybody wants a photo of it this time, because it's been steadily just getting a wee bit better. But maybe after the conversation with the penalty, I maybe went back down. But no, 2 great games. Really looking forward to the one on Friday. It'll be a really good atmosphere. And look, Dundee will turn up and hopefully their form can turn round and they can make a semi-final. I'm sure Hearts will have a massive say in that. So really looking forward to it.
No, just maybe want to make sure there's nobody in the car park shouting at you, Al.
Well, are you going to be there? Because if you're going to be there, then it'll probably happen.
I'd ask Michael about the games, but if I give him one more answer, we're over the hour, and Jamie's already told me we're in big trouble here. So we need to. I can't believe we've hit this point without the highlights. We will get the highlights back next week, I'm sure. We're back next Monday after the Scottish Cup as well. Alan, Michael, thank you very much as always. See you in the Social Club next Monday night. Bye for now.
The Scottish Football Social Club is brought to you by McBookie.com. Take a lookie at McBookie today.